One of the questions I've been getting all season long was what actually happened to the Falcons defense from 2024 to 2025. Not just did it get better, but how was it different on film? And to be real, from the jump, the 2024 defense was bad. It was older on average, slower to the spot, late to answers, and structurally reactive. Guys were competing, but everything felt a half step behind on film, in my opinion. And then 2025, that completely changed. You get an infusion of youth and real speed across the field, and now the defense can fly around instead of just surviving snaps. That athletic upgrade mattered, but what really flipped the whole thing was intent. This defense wasn't built to just hold space anymore, literally and figuratively. It was built to dictate. So before we jump into the film, I want to start with this chart like I always do, because it gives us a clean snapshot of how the Falcons changed schematically and how offenses were forced to respond. So when you look at this chart, it really captures how different the Falcons defense became from 2024 to 2025. You see the blitz rate jump up about 23% to nearly 35% on average. All right, man coverage increase and a clear shift towards more single high looks, especially in cover one. That's not an aggression for aggression's sake. That's philosophical change towards pressuring the quarterback and shrinking decision-making windows. And what's really telling is, and something that Sumer Brain highlighted, that's where I get some of my stuff, is how offenses reacted to that shift. RPO usage cut almost completely in half, all right? Because those concepts rely on clarity at the second level, and this defense took that clarity away. At the same time, motion usage spikes as offenses try to identify the coverage and the pressure pre-snap, and you see more base personnel and the slight increase in the run rate as teams try to add bodies, slow the game down, and protect the quarterback. All of it points to the same thing. The Falcons didn't just get better in 2025, they forced offenses to change how they play. And so with this chart in mind, let's go ahead and get into the film so you can see some of the key differences between last year to this year. All right, so the first thing I do want to look at is the technique of the D lineman, because it always starts up front, okay? And there's a difference between how you play defensive linemen. Yes, it's not just seeing big people go attack the other big people and go look for the ball, all right? So there's something called one gapping and two gapping, or some people say attack and react, or react and attack. And what we were doing is last year we were two gapping. So you play this a certain way where you just engage the blocker and you're essentially playing two gaps. Some people also do a gap and a half where you're responsible for this gap, but you also have to fall back if the run goes that way. So that's technically playing a gap and a half in order to kind of play these two high shells. Now we have Jesse down in the box right here, but early on this is what we were doing, and we still did some of the two gap. And so this would be, I think this would be react and attack. And then instead of doing that, now we actually attack then react. So what you're going to see here, the defensive line, they play a specific technique where they just, like I said, engage the blockers. All right, so now look at this. You see that KT, he just engages this guard. Okay, you see that 99 Aiden Goldman, he just engages the center and then he puts his knee down to maintain a double team. Zach Harrison does the same thing. You see Lorenzo Carter, he's just running right into the tight end. Okay, and this is why we have so many missed tackles, because we don't have the bodies to two gap. Okay, you need ass kickers to two gap. Okay, we just don't have that. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but we have the smaller defensive linemen, so we have to be a one gap team. Okay, and you see when they get engaged and you got these double teams up front, now you got guys shedding blocks late right here, and then you also have guys at the second level getting touched easily because they're trying to two gap and they can't because they're undersized, and you get easy combos to the next level. And you look at Nate Landman right here, he's not able to get off and make a tackle in time, and you see he also tries to punch the ball out. Does a good job, but just it just looks bad right here. And then you're relying on Justin Simmons, who's not known as a run defender, to just make a tackle in open space, and he just kind of half-asses it, and we get like a 25-yard run out of this because we just weren't playing to our strengths really. Now, one of the clearest contrasts you'll be able to see on film is especially on the edges, okay? Because when you look at Leonard Floyd on this one right here, you're gonna see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, because remember, like I said in the first clip, we're two gapping, so that means we're reacting, then we're attacking based off of where the run is going. So that means we're gonna engage in this guy and then go. So for example, right here, you would see last year he would just get his hands on and they would get the edge. But now, since we're playing in a more attack style front, now I will also say, now that I think about it, that regardless, you're going to ask your nose to two gap because he holds everything together up front. So he's going to play both A gaps. All right, so they're closed off, don't matter. So that's why I say we need a actual nose tackle, because we need somebody for that. But anyways, back on topic. So look, you're gonna see what I'm talking about. You're gonna do a toss to the right or towards the field. And you're gonna see that instead of engaging in the blocker, look at what Leonard Floyd's gonna do. He's just gonna get upfield and disrupt it, okay? Because in the past, and especially last year, you'd get him either trying to engage with Kyle Juszczyk or trying to engage with number 68. Is that McKivitz or something like that? I don't know. But he would try to engage with him, and then he'd end up getting run down the line, and then there go to cutback lanes, and you're not able to do anything. But instead, we're just going to get straight up field, and you see he's going to beat the blocks, and he's going to make a tackle in the backfield for a 4-yard loss. So this is like the main differences in one gapping and two gapping. And also, like I said before, this helps out our smaller defensive linemen right here, because you see Brandon Dorless, he's putting out on edge. Now he does do this. He can play here, he can play here, he could play right over the center and play zero. He could play 4-eye, he could play right over he could play anywhere, y'all. But he's out here playing on edge, and then we're going to stem the front to a 5-man with Caden Ellis. So what we're going to do, we're going to kick Brandon Dorless inside right here, and Caden's going to go right there. So now we create a 5-man surface, and you can't get these double teams as cleanly because, you know, this is Mike McDaniel. He loves the zone run. And how do you stop zone runs? You mitigate the double teams, okay? So here we go. You're going to stem the front right here, okay? And let's look at Brandon Dorless. When you have Brandon Dorless, who's a smaller guy, he's less than 300 pounds. He's about, what, 6'2", 6'3", I think, and about 295, 290. You see him, you're just going to get him going upfield, okay? He's too fast for this guy. He just gets across his face, wins, and he has this guy on the ground because he's too fast. He gets upfield, he penetrates the gaps, and we get another loss, okay? There's a reason why, including sacks and tackles for losses, the Falcons had 152 negative plays, because it's all about creating negative plays, not just straight up stopping the guys, okay? You can stop them, but if you're not necessarily getting like negative plays, those are going to start to add up, and teams will take those 14, 15, 16 play drives just to score touchdowns, okay? But if you can get more negative plays like this, where you're playing to your guy strength, like, not, because look at everybody on this line, y'all. They are not even worried about engaging. They're trying to get upfield and cause disruption, and that's what we get right here. And when you get those negative plays, that happens because, once again, we were like 152 total negative plays. We were like top 5 in tackles for losses. And last year, we only had 79 tackles for losses, and that was in 22nd overall. This year was 95. So it makes all the sense in the world. And now some of the other things is with this too high shell, we always played our corners extremely far off. Like, look at how far off he is from the line. Look at how far off AJ is from the line. It just doesn't make sense, okay? And what we're going to get here, we're going to get a motion. I will call it a screen motion, okay? Because now we're going to get these guys all blocking out on the perimeter. You're going to get a swing screen for Rashad Wright, okay? But I want y'all to pay attention to how the defense reacts, because it's just mind-boggling how they just don't do anything, okay? Poorly coached unit, okay? Now look at this. You're going to see that there was a late reaction to this motion. That was Nate Lamb, and I was supposed to, you know, go with this motion. But you see, this creates a 4-strong formation, and now you easily out leverage these guys, okay? Because now you have 1, 2, 3 for 1, 2, and now he can go get the safety, and that's going to be an easy touchdown, okay? And you're asking your safety to come from 20 yards away to go make a play on this, all right? It's just not like, come on, man. And then it's Richie Grant too. We know how Richie Grant is. So you get it blocked up 3 for 3, and now you create this alley to the end zone, and he's not going to affect it. Nobody is going to affect this play, and it's an easy touchdown, okay? So it's stuff like this where you can see it was poorly coached, and it's just all over the place, because you're supposed to adjust with that motion. This was a screen play no matter what, okay? And they didn't even try to stop it. Another example right here is that it was just way too easy to out leverage the defense on this right here. So you're gonna get this motion away, which is gonna end up flipping these guys. They're gonna flip responsibilities, but then you're gonna get this guy out. He's gonna swing around, and then you're gonna get these two guys out on the swing screen. So you're still gonna overload one side in a sense and out leverage us, okay? Because look at this, y'all. You're gonna get the motion across, And then look at this. You see the tackle he's going to set and he's going to release. You get the fullback out on the perimeter. They're going to take out this defensive lineman. And now look at this. He's catching this ball. Look at this. There's nobody around. All right. There's 3 for 3 once again. Okay. 3 for 3 with the running back. And nobody's accounting for him. And it's a free 13 yards. So it was annoying watching this all year. Okay. Because he had options. All right. Remember, he could have went right here because there was still 1 for 1. And he's not making a play on Justin Jefferson, and the safety's not going to do anything. But you also have this swing screen out here where you have 3 for 3 plus the runner, and the fourth guy is way back here. So it was just awful watching this every week where they would matriculate the ball down the field with these short passes underneath and into the flat, and they would just consistently rip off stuff like this. Cheap yards. And then here's another byproduct of the defense against RPOs where, look at this, y'all. One thing I religiously hated. Look at this. Look at where he is. He's at the 35-yard line, and he is way back here. Okay, and you're asking your nickel corner, to guard a guy this far off running a slant. Okay, they were killing D on these slant routes last year. And he couldn't do anything about it because this defensive coordinator told him, you're going to play this far off and you're going to play outside leverage. You're asking for everything underneath. Okay, it's just terrible. All right, and look at this. You're going to get this run action. You're going to get this this gap scheme run right here. You're going to get both guards pulling around. It's going to attract these linebackers. And also, furthermore, it doesn't help that you are predictable. Okay, very predictable defense, because once we get across the 50, Jimmy Lake started blitzing way more. Okay, and you're going to see Justin Simmons is going to creep down into the box, and we're going to be in zero. Okay, now I don't have a problem running zero, but if you're going to be this predictable when you get across the 50, you know you're going to get a blitz more times than not. Now look at that. You have all these guys in the box worrying about the run, and then here comes a double slant RPO, and it's just that easy. Okay, and then you get rack after this because you have your guys out leveraged. Okay, he's already behind him. He's coming at a weird angle, and you're able to get these extra yards, and now you're right there in the red zone. Okay, so not only was it predictable, it was disadvantageous, and it just didn't make sense. Okay, and I don't know why Raheem Morris let Jimmy Lake call the defense, because he just did not know what he was doing. Now we get to 2025, and you really don't see any of that easy stuff getting, completed on this anymore. You're gonna still get this screen motion over here to JSN, and you're gonna get this smoke screen. All right, you're gonna get 2 for 2. All right, and then you're gonna get the ball carrier. But guess what? Like, since AJ wasn't so far off, we are a more aggressive defense. Now you see D offers way up more close, playing inside leverage now, protecting that inside middle of the field. Okay, you're gonna see it's still gonna get this. He's gonna be on the blitz, right? But still, look, you're still gonna get 2 for 2 plus the ball carrier. All right, but look at this. They were much closer. Okay, very much closer. We had younger guys in the middle that were rangier, faster, whatever. And you see there's nowhere to go. Okay, using the boundary as your fourth defender. So now there's 4 defenders and only, 1, 2, 3 guys. Okay, and he can't help but do anything but try to get out on the edge. And that's a negative play right there created, because if he tries to cut back, he's going to cut right back into a linebacker that converted from safety. He's pretty big and he hits hard. So you just had nothing to do with this one. All right, this is a wasted play. Another example of these screens just not being free yards anymore is from my favorite game, which was the Colts game. Even though we lost it, I really liked watching this game because you could tell the atmosphere was just crazy. Okay, I think it really was kind of like a primetime game in a sense, considering it was like nighttime when the game ended. But look, you're gonna get this slip screen for the running back. Okay, but you're also gonna see that Jesse's playing all the way down like he's showing a blitz, but in reality he's guarding Jonathan Taylor. Okay, and remember, this was a sack fumble when we got the ball back at midfield. All right, so look at this. You're gonna see what I'm talking about, how it just wasn't cheap yards anymore, because if this was 2024, these guys would be very far off. It's also because it's 3rd and long right here. Okay, the sticks are way back here, and instead of just saying, okay, we're gonna play super soft, we're not gonna let him get anything cheap on us, we're gonna press the issue even more. We're gonna stand up there, we're gonna get in your face now. Okay, and look at what this look at what this causes, y'all. It causes a lot of confusion on the front end with the offensive line. So now you have James Pierce Jr. running free, but also you fooled Daniel Jones into thinking that he could get this screenplay off, and Jesse Bates was right there the whole time waiting on him. And then you get a sack fumble, and then Jalen Walker falls on the ball. So it's just the easy stuff that you thought you were gonna get again, you weren't gonna get. And then we look at the RPO side of this, where in this game specifically, they were able to score on this RPO in the low red zone with this snag and then this flat right here, okay, and you had the run going the other way with the split zone right there, okay. So they were able to score on this earlier in the game, but you can see also once again, it just wasn't this easy anymore, okay. And even then when they did score on this RPO, he had to fight for that touchdown, okay. But you're gonna see once again when you look up front how this is all coming together with these guys being penetrators and also with us being more aggressive on the back end. You weren't able to get as many of these easy yards as you were thinking you were gonna get, okay. So look at this, you're gonna get the motion over, okay, and you're gonna get once again this snag and arrow, okay, and then you're gonna get split zone right here with JT Sanders and Rico Dowdle. But you see the front line, they just completely destroy their blocks right here, okay. And you see Jalen Walker does a very good job of squeezing down, not allowing a clean sift block right here, so he's already on the inside of this, all right. But then when you look at this on the back end, they pass this off perfectly, okay. And then also I want to show y'all this, y'all. Look at this, y'all. Billy Bowman Jr. is playing linebacker right here, okay. He's playing linebacker, and they were able to pass it off right here. I don't know what kind of setup this was, but we were just sitting on this the entire time, okay, and you were able to get a negative play out of this, so I like that. Okay, and here's another example of what I'm talking about when I say like just no free yards, because the Commanders, they were just like the poster child of doing these RPO screens and stuff, getting on the perimeter and taking advantage of you, all right. So at the bottom, you're gonna get this bubble screen, okay. This is kind of like a check, a yes or no right here, okay. Do you like that? But then also what we're gonna get this guy bluffing this block and arcing, okay. We're gonna get not split zone, you're gonna get counter going this way, okay. So we're gonna get these guys going. He's gonna wrap around like he's gonna be the kick up. He's gonna just really arc block, and then you have this yes no up here, so you can hand it off, or what you can do is you can keep it and run. But if you like this out here, you're gonna take it, okay. And so once again, we're not letting you get this free yard. So now we got 2 over 2. You can confidently say we're not gonna throw this, okay. But then we get to the run defense, y'all. This is where it makes sense, because look at this, you're gonna get counter going to the right, all right. He's gonna open up, get off the midline, and you see K-Nose does a good job, does a very good job. And also these guys do a good job of holding up right here too. And look at Arnold Ebiketie, he's gonna spill this. Like, when have you known Arnold Ebiketie to be a run defender, y'all? I've never seen it. But you also see the defense, they're working more on the string collectively, all right. Because now look at this, Jesse Bates sees it and he's already down there, all right. And he just kind of just gets off of that arc block, and now it's 3 for 2. So you got 3 black jerseys, 2 white jerseys, okay. And K-Nose makes the play in the backfield. It just wasn't this easy, you know, this year. And it would be easy last year, especially if you had Jaden Daniels, but it wasn't easy this year. And now let's look at the back end and talk about how the coverages help get turnovers and sacks. So this is the first thing right here I want to look at. So let's look at the top of the screen where we're going to get this curl route by Mike Evans. Then you're going to get this seam by the number 2 receiver. Now, what I think I will say throughout this entire game, they were getting a lot of access throws to Kobe Bryant's side, where you either had those out routes, those, once again, those curl routes, those corner routes sometimes, just a simple smoke or whatever you want to call it right here, all right. But you really weren't getting a lot of that on AJ, but you were getting it on Kobe, okay. And for coverage wise, we are in quarters. This is what it looks like, all right. So we have our 4 quarter defenders, all right, and then we're gonna have the 3 underneath, all right. The quarter flat, the middle hook, and the other quarter flat. And there are 2 ways to play this, all right. You can collide and carry. So remember, we have a seam route right here, okay. And remember, everything is predicated off of the number 2 receiver. So if number 2 goes up, that's the safety, because these guys are attached to them, essentially playing cover 0 with a 4-man rush, all right. So there's 2 ways you can play this. You can collide and carry, where he's gonna he's gonna collide and then carry this, and then eventually just kind of slack off and then look for work. Or you can immediately overlap underneath, okay, because since 2 went vert, you're gonna overlap underneath 1 and shut off that curl, okay. So this is exactly what happened. So you're gonna see what I'm talking about. Look at this, check this out. So you see you're gonna get 2 vert, and remember, if this was collide and carry, he would turn and run with this for a little minute, which would open up this curl route, okay. And Mike Evans, in my opinion, he's doing a shitty route, because you see his hips are that high. In my opinion, you know, you're kind of telegraphed you're gonna break this down. But you're going to see D'Alver, he has eyes on Baker the whole time. He's not even worried about colliding and carrying this number 2 receiver. He's going to overlap immediately to the curl route, and that's an easy interception. Okay, this is what he did against the Saints in Week 18, where he just already immediately overlapped and got the interception. Okay, so it's stuff like this where you're playing quarters and you're playing it different ways, because there also is a wrinkle where we actually do carry this. All right, and that time we just said, okay, no, we're going to overlap at this time because they're getting these easy access throws. Good on the fly adjustment by Jeff Ulbrich right here to get a turnover too. Like, good thing this guy's still in Flowery Branch. I'm glad. And now we're going to look at the man coverage part of this, because we did do a lot of man coverage now. Okay, so now what for the offense, we're going to get these comeback routes on the outside. Okay, you're going to get both mirrored comebacks with these guys checking and releasing into the flat. Okay, and then you're gonna get this, I guess, this middle read route where you're going to do a dig or a post depending on the shell of the defense. All right, but we're also gonna get just a simple 4-man rush with man coverage and aggressive man coverage at that. And one thing about it, in 2023, when we didn't have the best pass rush up front, we played a lot of man coverage to make the quarterback hold the ball longer, make those windows tighter, which in turn generated at least about 12 more sacks for us. Okay, so when you look at this go on, all right, you're gonna see. Now, we did disguise it, because now Xavier Watts, he's playing in the middle of the field like he normally does. Jesse's playing over top, and you see you got these guys in man coverage, plaster and everything. Okay, so when Drake is at the top of his drop, y'all, look at where Drake is at the top of his drop. Look at what's open. There is nothing open. He's looking at this safety right here. He's like, oh my God, no, because here comes this receiver. He's going to break across the middle of the field. He's going to do this, and then also this receiver is going to do that. There is nothing open at the top of his drop. And simultaneously, look who's coming free, Jalen Walker. Okay, so we got him to hold this ball just a little bit longer, because now look, he's trying to progress over here and look over there. But look, Jalen Walker's in his face. We get a fumble, and now look at that. We're 1st and goal inside the 10. So it's stuff like that where it just makes our defense that much better, where we just playing to our strengths. And this is what my biggest takeaway from this, you know, this wasn't a random year-to-year jump or defense just getting lucky. The Falcons got younger, faster, and paired that with a much more aggressive philosophy that allows athletes to play to their strengths. Offenses felt it in how they called games, how they lined up, and how they tried to survive the downs. And the numbers tell us what changed, and the film shows us why. So if you guys did rock with this kind of film breakdown, make sure you drop a like and subscribe, and let me know what part of the Falcons football stuff you want me to dive into next. So with that being said, see you guys later next video. Goodbye.